And so then we were part of this group in Massachusetts that it was Northeastern University. And so they took 900 samples last summer and were trying to figure out another way to kind of what is stable organic matter? How do you think about organic matter in a way that it isn't just a cycling of nutrients? So you put that grass in, and it pretty quickly, gets used up. And so you might call it organic matter, but really it's just a quick fertilizer. And so you take that woody stuff, and so it's just like, okay, well, that's going to take a while to break down. And in my best scenario, it goes down to a humus particle that stays there 1,000 years. But in any case, you've got that longer term carbon. So what this is showing is that our native soil, which should have pretty good humification, I would guess, is showing one number, and then our field that's about an 8 or 10-year-old field, the red number on the left of the high bars there says 58, same as the native soil, and then a 20-year-old field shows a little bit higher. So this is new to Helen and I, trying to figure out, okay, is this the way to look at kind of a more stable, longer term organic matter? Maybe so, and so we'll keep looking into this, but it was kind of exciting to see that they seem to expect lower numbers if you had tilled fields, and that you wouldn't ever get close to a native soil. But in our case, it's like, okay, we're as good as native soil and even a little better maybe. And so then the disease part, it isn't like that organic farming and you make a healthy soil and that every problem is gone. Not at all. And so back in the 90s, 92 through 96, I got a number of funding cycles through Organic Farming Research Foundation to look at brown rot, which is a big problem for peach growers, chemical or organic. And with organic, there are more and more biological sprays that you can add, organisms kind of going against brown rot that, maybe they work. Since I did that research, what I found was that by spraying a mix of the minerals, especially the ones that were a little bit low in my soil tests, and spraying those on brown rot's most problematic at bloom. And so if I sprayed these minerals at bloom, then it just put a coating over those blooms that are nice and sugary, and brown rot's really a strong, fungus that'll, take that bloom and just strike it, eat it all up and grow and then sporulate and move. And it has, so besides cultural practices, taking the mummified fruit that dries up, getting it out of the orchard at the right time, or getting it in ground contact in the middle of summer, anyway, so putting on these mineral sprays actually was all I needed to do. Timing was important too, before a rain, often enough if it's a really rainy, if high humidity, and it's warm. I mean, there's a lot of parts to this that I'm not going to quite explain all of it. But generally it was just mineral spray, so pretty basic, same minerals that I used soil applied. And then another one that's just been hitting us lately, so everything isn't all rosy at Woodleaf, has been fire blight. So fire blight, I've never used antibiotics, but that was an organically approved material, and so that's been taken off the list as of this year or last year. So this year, farmers are having to figure out, as an organic farmer, what can they do. And so you're looking at Bosc pears there on the left, and we just have had enough trouble with Comeece and Bosc and Bartlett that as they are getting fire blight, I'm sawing them out of the orchard and replanting the areas with resistant varieties. And so there's a variety that's my favorite anyway called a Warren, and so I'm planting more of those. And they've barely ever had a strike at all. And I'm going to go, I've been doing different biological sprays for fire blight, but not completely successfully, so I'm not that thrilled. And then another thing is with the peaches. Well, the peaches, the climate seems to be changing. We have some issue, not so much at our farm, because we're at 1,300 feet and it gets a little bit cold, but chill hours in California for sure is becoming more of an issue. Some of the varieties that need 700 or 800 chill hours, anything below 45 degrees counts, every hour counts as one chill hour. We don't get enough of those to get up to 750 anymore. So some of the varieties that we've been growing, and really good varieties, might not be low chill enough. So my friend, who's a peach breeder, and I've been down to Mexico a number of times to give talks at his conferences down there, has come up twice now and helped me do breeding and figure out what are the disease resistant, but also the most flavorful and what's going to make a lower chill. And anyway, he's brilliant. And so he was just here last week doing a lot of breeding. And so Salvador's there working on adding some pollen to peach. And so some of the strategies of, okay, you can't rest on your laurels, not that we have any, but that, we got to keep going and figuring out what's going on. And so then what's lovely about Woodleaf is we're up in the Sierra foothills, and right above us is this small lake, Lake Wyandotte, that takes a 3,000 acre, all the hills behind it. It works out to about 3,000 acres of a drainage area that flows into this small lake that feeds a couple farms. I think it's like 2 or 3 farms my size, so it's just a small ditch. But it's enough that we're able to put on 2 irrigations a week, so we're keeping that biology in the soil kind of not too wet but moist, so all those organisms in the soil are happy. They're able to get air. They don't get so saturated that the air goes away, but they get water and they get air, same as us. It's needed for them to survive and thrive. So we put on those 2 irrigations with our micro sprinklers, and it works out to about an inch, a little over an inch, probably twice a week. So a little over 2 inches a week is what we give them. So it's a fair amount of water, but it's also, where it is. It's gravity flow water. We don't have to pump it because it's about 80 to 90 feet above us where the lake is. It comes into a pipe and we get it under a little bit of pressure. So nice having, it's got a lot of algae in it, so we have to filter that out. But otherwise, it's a great to have, enough water to do this kind of farming. If you were to do drip, on this land, it would be a much more, it'd be meager how you would be able to get that soil to really get going. So here we're able to use that 2 inches or a little more than 2 inches a week and really get the soil, make it happy, keep it growing. And as we keep it kind of investing, and feels like that it keeps getting a little better all the time. And so we're not degrading it, we're improving it is what I think. And so when we have about probably closer to 10% vegetable production on the farm, and so I'm always rotating out. Like peaches only last about 15 years, and then you need to rotate out to the next crop. And so what we do, like this was a field that I took 30 trees out last fall, or fall before last now, and put in, so took it all out, got the soil kind of amended to where I wanted it, changed it around a little bit, added a cover crop of the New Zealand white clover, a perennial clover, and so seeded that in October and put the irrigation in, and so then came in the spring and just did 1 tillage pass, or actually I think I went back and forth, so 2 tillage passes. And that'll be all this field will get for the next 5 years. We'll be able to grow vegetables on it in the spots where I'd tilled. And I'll put a trellis system in, you'll see in the next slide. And then right after that 3 to 5 years while we're growing these vegetables, we'll switch and we'll then put in back to orchard without having to do any more prep. We can leave and just pull out the posts from this trellis system. So here you can see the trellis in the first year of growing on the trellis, and it's nice solid clover. And then the trellis, the cucumbers are going up, and without really having to manage the clover this year at all, it starts to grow back into the cucumbers about the time the cucumbers are tall enough to have it not even matter. So the first year is kind of free. You did that tillage and planted the seed and put in this trellis system, and no problem. Everything goes pretty smoothly. It seems like we've been able to do this system with cucumbers. Cucumbers are a tricky one. They get diseases built in. We don't add them the second year. We don't plant in the same soil cucumbers again. We switch over to different crops like on the trellis system. It's amazing how the eggplant and the peppers, even though you wouldn't think of them as trellising plants, you put them in the row and then you kind of help them kind of go up, and you can get eggplant up 4 or 5 feet, and you can get peppers up to 7 feet. And they just kind of work their way up, and good quality. And by then the grasses are moving in, and you're starting to get some more competition. And so we're then starting to use different kinds of mulch. We have a mower that harvests grass out of the middle of the orchards, and we take that mulch and we side dress these rows or put it right over the rows in the winter, pull that back so that then we can put our transplants in or plant a seed, depends on what the crop is. On the trellis, we do pole beans, tomatoes, the eggplant, the peppers, and it seemed like there was one other thing, but